Hey, welcome back to Mr. P Helps with Algebra. This is Unit 2, Topic 3, Lesson number 9, and we are going to continue our exploration of solving equations by graphing, systems of equations by graphing. We're going to first solve a system of equation here by using a different method. We're going to be substituting, not using the substitution method, but just substituting an answer to see if it works. Theater wants to make at least $2,000, and children's tickets cost $5 and adult tickets cost $10. Right inequality represents the amount of money. Well, I'm going to make children's tickets X and adult tickets Y. So that means $5 per child ticket plus $10 per adult ticket has to be at least $2,000. And down here says, if a theater has a maximum of 350 seats, right inequality describes the number of types of seats. Child tickets plus adult tickets has to be less than the amount of seats or equal to the amount of seats that they have. Find the number of children and adult tickets that can be sold so that all the seats are sold and that 2,000 goal is reached. All right, so all you really have to do here is substitute into the two inequalities and see if they work. So you're testing it. So let's say it was, if it's 350 seats, let's say it was 100 and 150. 100 child seats, 5 times 100 plus 10 times 150, nope, 250. That would be 350 seats, 250, sorry. And that would, let's see if that's greater than or equal to $2,000. Now, we already know that that's exactly 350 seats. So that's using up all the seats. 100 plus 250 is 350. So this is going to make $500 in child seats, and it's also going to make $2,500 in adult seats. And that is going to be greater than the $2,000. Matter of fact, that's going to be $3,000. And once again, that is greater than $2,000. Okay, so there's the warm-up. We are going to introduce new constraints today. We're going to be introducing mixing foods. And you're going to be mixing foods to make sure that all the food has all the right nutrition for the cats and dogs that you're setting for. All right, so we started off with the amount of protein. It tells you right here in the story that Tabitha Tidbits, which is, I think, the more expensive one, and the Figaro Flakes is the cheaper one. Tabitha Tidbits have 2 grams of protein. So let's make that X. 2 times X, and Figaro Flakes have, where is it? Figaro Flakes? By mixing the two. Okay, so we are going to mix the two. So Tabitha Figaro Flakes, each ounce has 2, okay, here we go. Figaro Flakes has 3 grams of protein. So plus 3Y. Go to carbohydrates, so 4 grams of carbs and 4 grams of carbs. So that's 4X and 4Y. If I go to amounts of fats, that's 4 grams of fats and 2 grams of fats. 4 grams of fats plus 2 grams of fat. All right, so now I want to look at the constraints. See, what was the limitation of the constraints? The amount of proteins. Each meal should contain at least 12 grams of protein. So that's at least 12 grams. Whatever it has must be more than 12 or equal to. Where carbohydrates, each meal should contain more than 16. More than 16. And amount of fats, each meal should contain no more than 18 grams. No more, that means it has to be less than or equal to 18. And then serving size, if you have Tabitha Tidbits plus Figaro Flakes, has to be less than 10 ounces. So really the main goal of this lesson is you're going to be exposed to something new, which is making boundary lines that are dotted lines and not just solid lines. Because a boundary line does not have to include an answer. If it doesn't include the answer, you make it a dotted line. So you're going to do the exact same thing you've done in the past, which is find the x and y intercepts. The x-intercept here is 6, because 12 divided by 2 is 6, and 12 divided by 3 is 4. So that's 6 and 4. 6 on the x and 4 on the y. And it was greater than or equal to, which means these are all the answers that are exactly 16. And it's also going to include everything that's greater than those 16. So everything above is shaded. Okay, I didn't do the greatest job shading, but it'll just have to do. 16 divided by 4 is 4. Divided by 4 is 4. So I'm going to define my boundary lines. So here's the new thing. So this one has to be greater than, not or equal to. So I'm going to make a dotted boundary line. And the reason I'm doing that is because that boundary line is not included as an answer. But everything above it is included as an answer. So you do shade above like you have done in the past. And normally I would take my time and make it a little neater, but I'm trying to save some time here. All right, so the next one, 18 divided by 4 is 4.5, and 18 divided by 2 is 9. 4.5 and 9. 4.5 and 9 is right there. 4.5 is about right there. And this one was, let's just check the sign, less than or equal to. So the boundary line is going to be solid because anything that is 18 is an answer, but also the answer could be less than that. So all of this is an answer as well. Now, we haven't yet talked about, what about these negatives? Why aren't I making the boundary lines go across? Well, you can have, you're making a mixture of the two Tabitha Tidbits and Figaro Flakes. You can't make a mixture of negative Tabitha Tidbits or negative Figaro Flakes. So the reason why the boundary lines are stopping is because negatives don't make sense in the context of the question. And the last one, 10 divided by 1 is 10, 10 divided by 1 is also 10. So that one's pretty easy. The x and the y-intercepts are both 10. It's going to be a dotted line because you can't have exactly 10 ounces, but it can be anything less than 10 ounces, and that would look like this. All right, so the last thing you would do is put all of the graphs together on one graph. So we had one that was 4, 4. If I memory, let's see, 4, 4 was the one that's dotted, and 4, 6 was solid. 4, 6, so this one's dotted, and this one's solid. And we had a 10, 10 that was dotted. And the last one, I believe, was 9 and 4.5. Okay, about right there, and that one is also solid. Okay, so I wasn't very precise here on my last line. But the point of this was to figure out where is the solution. Because this one represented the amount of serving size, and the serving size had to be below. So everything up here is not a possible solution because it has to meet all 4 constraints. This one right here was the amount of fat, and it also had to be below the fat line because you can't have too much fat. You don't want that because it's not going to be healthy for your pets. And I can't remember which one of these was carbs and which one was protein, but both of them were above. So we're looking for places that are above these 2 lines, but also below these 2 lines. So like right here, that would not work because that is not enough protein or enough carbs or vice versa, whichever it is. The only place that's going to meet all 4 constraints is this little triangle here. Everything in this triangle meets all 4 constraints. Now you might be thinking, well, what about this little tiny triangle down here? Well, this tiny triangle is too much fat. It might meet all the other constraints. Actually, it doesn't meet the protein constraint either, or carbs, whichever one this is. This spot right here would meet all the constraints except for it's too much fat. So that's really what I was thinking about. So anything in this section right here meets 3 of the constraints, but not all 4. So it is not a part of the solution. All right, so then getting to the answer. So this time we're given the inequalities and we're being asked to write the inequality for it. So we're given the graph and asked to write the inequality. First thing I want to do is find the boundary line. Y represents the answer. So the boundary line looks like it's at -4. Then we want to find the slope. So it looks like it's down 1 for every right 2. Down 1 for every right 2. So that equation represents the boundary line. That y represents the answer, and the answer has to be above the boundary line. It can't be equal to because it's a dotted line. So this one's a system of inequalities, which means the purple is the answer because the blue part only meets the constraint of this line. It's not below this line also, and the pink only represents the constraint of this line. So we want something that's going to represent both, which is the purple part. So I'm going to start with this line right here. It looks like it crosses at 8. If y represents the answer, we also need the slope, and I'm looking closer. It looks like it's up 4, right 1, up 4, right 1, so that means it has a slope of 4. So 4x plus 8 is this boundary line, and it has to be below but not equal to. Now I'll do the same thing for the other boundary line. Looks like it's hitting right here at 4, so 4 is the starting point. And it looks like it's going up 1, right 2, up 1, right 2, up 1, right 2 is positive like that. So slope times x plus starting point, and this time, once again, everything graphed is below. And there's your answers. All right, please give it a like if it helped you learn something, and subscribe if you haven't done so already. Have a wonderful, fantastic day. See you later.